Today, we're diving into a story that's as heartfelt as it is powerful. The Teacher's Son. In the heart of a prestigious high school where wealth and privilege shine brightly, we meet Dele, a hard-working and brilliant student. Despite his exceptional talents, Dele faces constant ridicule from his wealthy classmates because his father is a humble teacher. But when Lami, the school's most popular and affluent girl, takes notice of Dele's true character, their worlds begin to collide in the most unexpected way. What starts as a simple friendship soon blossoms into a deep and passionate love that defies societal expectations. As Dele and Lami navigate the tumultuous waters of public scrutiny and personal insecurities, they'll discover that true happiness comes from embracing who you are, not where you come from. Together, they'll challenge the boundaries of status and wealth, proving that love knows no limits. Join us on this incredible journey of love, resilience, and self-discovery. Hit that subscribe button, and let's embark on this adventure together. Don't miss out. Your next favorite story is just a click away. Follow me, and let's go there. Dele walked down the long, polished halls of St. Catherine's High School, his worn shoes making soft scuffing sounds on the floor. Unlike his classmates, who flaunted their designer shoes and fancy watches, Dele stood out. Not for his wealth, but for his simplicity. His father was a respected teacher at the school, yet this fact made Dele a target. The wealthy students often sneered at him, calling him names like the poor teacher's son. It wasn't that Dele lacked intelligence. In fact, he was one of the top students in his class. But intelligence alone wasn't enough to earn him the respect of his peers in a world where status and money meant everything. As Dele sat in the cafeteria during lunch, his eyes scanned the crowd. The laughter and chatter were deafening, but none of it included him. Suddenly, he felt a cold splash of juice down his back. "Oops, didn't see you there, Dele," snickered Toby, one of the rich boys who took pleasure in humiliating him. The cafeteria erupted in laughter as Dele wiped the juice off his shirt. He didn't react, he never did. He knew better than to give them the satisfaction of seeing him upset. Instead, he clenched his fists and silently returned to his seat, determined to focus on his studies. Little did he know, someone was watching him closely. Lami, the most popular girl in school, sat with her group of friends across the cafeteria. She had it all: wealth, beauty, and the admiration of nearly every boy at St. Catherine's. But as she watched the scene with Dele unfold, something stirred inside her. She had seen the way the rich boys treated Dele before, but this time, something about his calm, dignified response caught her attention. Unlike the others who laughed, she found herself curious about the quiet boy who seemed so different from everyone else. Later that day, as Lami walked to her next class, she spotted Dele in the library, his nose buried in a book. She hesitated for a moment, then approached him. "Hi, Dele," she said softly, catching him off guard. Dele looked up, his eyes widening in surprise. Hello," he stammered, unsure why the most popular girl in school was speaking to him. "I saw what happened in the cafeteria earlier. Those guys are idiots," Lami continued, offering him a kind smile. Dele blinked, still processing her words. "It's fine," he muttered, not wanting to make a big deal out of it. But Lami wasn't done. "You know, I think you're really smart. I've seen your grades in class. You're probably the brightest student here." Dele's heart skipped a beat. Compliments were rare for him, especially from someone like Lami. He couldn't help but smile, even if just a little. The next few days saw more surprising interactions between Dele and Lami. She would wave at him in the hallway or smile when they passed each other, which made heads turn and whispers circulate. Why is Lami talking to him? She could do better. The voices around them grew louder, but Lami didn't seem to care. One afternoon, while Dele sat under a tree on the school grounds reading, Lami joined him without a word. She sat down, pulling out her notebook and pretending to study, even though Dele knew she was more interested in chatting. "Do you always read alone?" Lami asked, breaking the silence. Dele shrugged. "Most people don't want to be seen with the teacher's son," he said quietly, not wanting to sound bitter, but knowing it was the truth. Lami frowned. "Well, I don't care what they think," she said firmly. "You're more interesting than most of the people in the school anyway." Dele looked at her, taken aback. It had been a long time since someone had made him feel seen. "Thanks," he said. Feeling a warmth spread through him. It was in that moment that Dele began to realize that perhaps this friendship wasn't just a fluke. The news of Lami's friendship with Dele spread like wildfire through the school. Whispers followed them wherever they went. "Can you believe Lami is hanging out with him? What does she see in him?" The more time Lami spent with Dele, the more intense the rumors became. Her friends began to distance themselves, unable to understand why she would lower herself to befriend someone of Dele's status. One afternoon, during lunch, Lami's best friend, Amina, confronted her. "Lami, what are you doing? People are starting to talk." "You're ruining your reputation," Amina said, her tone laced with concern. Lami sighed, frustrated by the constant need to explain herself. "I like Dele, okay? He's smart and kind, and I'm not going to stop hanging out with him just because people are talking." Amina frowned. "But he's so different. His father is a teacher, Lami. People will never accept this." Lami met her gaze, her voice steady. "Maybe I don't care what people accept. Maybe it's time they saw Dele for who he really is, not where he comes from." With that, Lami stood up and walked away, leaving Amina speechless. While Lami defended their friendship to her friends, Dele was battling his own insecurities. He couldn't understand why someone like Lami would want to be friends with him, let alone spend so much time together. The more they bonded, the more nervous he became about what others thought. One evening, as they sat together on the bleachers after school, Dele finally voiced his concerns. "Why are you doing this, Lami?" he asked, his voice laced with uncertainty. "You could be with anyone, but you're choosing to spend time with me. People are starting to talk, and I don't want you to get hurt." Lami looked at him, her brow furrowed. "What do you mean, why?" "I like being with you, Dele. I don't care what people think." Dele shook his head. "But you should care. You come from a different world. I'm just the teacher's son." Lami reached out, gently placing her hand on his. "That doesn't matter to me, Dele. You're more than what people say about you. You're smart, funny, and you care about others. I see you for who you really are." Dele stared at her, his heart swelling with emotion. But deep down, a part of him still wondered if their worlds could truly coexist. The story continues in this way, building on the tensions between their relationship, the growing disapproval from peers and parents, Dele's internal struggle with self-worth, and the challenges they face from their different social backgrounds. The narrative unfolds dramatically, showing their growth, setbacks, and ultimate understanding that love and personal fulfillment transcend societal expectations. At home, things weren't much easier for Dele. His father, Mr. Ade, was a strict but loving man who had always emphasized the importance of education and hard work. Dele's academic success made his father proud, but Mr. Ade also knew the difficulties his son faced at school. One evening after dinner, Mr. Ade noticed Dele's distant expression. "You've been quiet lately, son," he said, setting down his book. "Is everything all right at school?" Dele hesitated, unsure whether to bring up his growing friendship with Lami. He knew his father would be supportive, but the thought of revealing how close they'd become was overwhelming. "It's just school," Dele finally said, avoiding eye contact. "Things are getting complicated." Mr. Ade raised an eyebrow. "Complicated? How so?" Dele sighed, knowing he couldn't avoid the subject any longer. "I've been spending time with Lami, you know, the girl from one of the wealthy families. People are talking, and I don't know if it's a good idea." Mr. Ade leaned back, thoughtfully stroking his chin. "Ah, the wealthy girl," he said. "I've seen her around. She seems bright, but I understand why you're hesitant. People can be cruel when it comes to differences in status." "But Dele," he added, his voice gentle but firm, "what matters is how she treats you. If she values you for who you are, then that's all you need to know." Dele nodded, grateful for his father's wisdom. Yet, the lingering doubts inside him remained. Could their friendship survive the constant judgment from others? Meanwhile, Lami was facing her own set of challenges. Her parents, especially her mother, were deeply rooted in the upper echelons of society and expected Lami to follow suit. One evening at dinner, as Lami's family sat around their grand dining table, her mother, Mrs. Alaba, casually asked, "So, Lami, how are things at school? Any new friends we should know about?" Lami felt a pang of nervousness. She had been avoiding this conversation for days, but she knew it would come eventually. "There's someone I've been spending time with," Lami began cautiously. "His name is Dele." Her father, Mr. Alaba, looked up from his plate. "Dele, is that the teacher's son?" Lami nodded, bracing herself for what was coming next. Mrs. Alaba's expression hardened. "The teacher's son," she repeated, her voice laced with disapproval. "Lami, darling, you know we've always encouraged you to associate with people from your own background. The teacher's son doesn't exactly fit into that." Lami swallowed, feeling the weight of her mother's words. "But he's different, Mom. He's kind, intelligent, and—" Her mother cut her off, her tone sharp. "Lami, you must think about your future. People will judge you based on the company you keep. And I'm afraid this Dele is not the kind of person you should be seen with." Lami felt a surge of frustration. "But I don't care what people think. He's my friend." Mr. Alaba, who had been silent throughout the exchange, cleared his throat. "Let's not rush to conclusions, dear," he said to his wife. "Lami is old enough to make her own decisions. But," he added, turning to Lami, "you should be prepared for the consequences of those decisions. Society can be unforgiving." The pressure from their families began to weigh heavily on both Dele and Lami. Although they still spent time together at school, there was an unspoken tension between them. Dele's insecurities gnawed at him, making him feel unworthy of Lami's affection. He started to pull away, choosing to spend more time alone, immersed in his studies. Lami noticed the distance and felt a deep sadness. She had grown fond of Dele, not just as a friend, but as someone she admired and cared for. However, the opinions of others, especially her family, began to creep into her thoughts. One afternoon, as they sat together under the familiar tree where they often studied, Lami couldn't hold back any longer. "Dele, why are you pulling away from me?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. Dele avoided her gaze, staring at the ground. "It's just, everything is getting too complicated. Your family, the other students. I don't want to make things harder for you, Lami. You deserve better than to be judged because of me." Lami reached out, taking his hand. "I don't care what anyone says, Dele. I like you. I care about you." Dele shook his head. "But that's the problem, Lami. You shouldn't have to fight for someone like me. I'm just a teacher's son. Your world is different from mine, and I don't want you to suffer because of it." Lami's eyes filled with frustration. "I don't care about our differences, Dele. I care about you. Why can't you see that?" Dele stood up, his heart heavy with conflict. "Maybe you shouldn't," he whispered before walking away, leaving Lami alone under the tree, her heart aching. Dele's growing doubts began to affect his school performance. His grades, which had always been excellent, started to slip, and his teachers noticed. At home, Mr. Ade observed his son's change in behavior and decided it was time for a heart-to-heart conversation. One evening after dinner, Mr. Ade called Dele into the living room. "Son, we need to talk," he said, motioning for Dele to sit down. Dele sighed, already knowing where the conversation was headed. "Is this about my grades?" Dele asked, his voice low. "Yes," Mr. Ade replied. "But it's more than that. You've been distant lately, and I can tell something is bothering you. What's going on, Dele?" Dele hesitated, not wanting to burden his father with his problems. "It's just everything. School, Lami. The way people treat me. I don't know if I can handle it anymore." Mr. Ade listened carefully, nodding as his son spoke. "I understand," he said after a moment. "I know how hard it can be to feel like you don't belong. But Dele, you have something that many of those people will never have: character. You're a hard-working, kind young man, and that's worth more than all the money in the world. Dele looked at his father, his eyes filled with doubt. But what if that's not enough? What if I'm just not good enough for Lami or for this school? Mr. Ade smiled, placing a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. You're more than enough, Dele. The question is, do you believe it? Because the only way people will see your worth is if you see it in yourself first. Days turned into weeks, and Dele continued to distance himself from Lami. The whispers at school had only grown louder, and the pressure was starting to take its toll. Lami, however, refused to give up on their friendship. She knew that the bond they shared was special, and she wasn't ready to let it slip away just because of societal expectations. One morning, she caught Dele on his way to class. "We need to talk," she said firmly, her determination evident in her eyes. Dele sighed, knowing he couldn't avoid the conversation any longer. "Lami, I don't want to drag you into this mess. People are already talking, and it's only going to get worse." Lami crossed her arms, refusing to back down. "I don't care what people think, Dele. You're my friend, and more than that, She hesitated, gathering the courage to say what she had been feeling for so long. "I care about you, Dele. I think I'm falling for you." Dele's heart raced at her words, but he quickly shook his head. "Lami, you don't understand. I'm not like you. I can't offer you the life you're used to. People will judge you for being with me, and I can't let that happen." Lami took a step closer, her voice soft but resolute. "I don't care about the life I'm used to. What matters to me is being with someone who respects me, who's kind and intelligent, and who makes me happy. That's you, Dele." Dele's resolve began to crumble, but the fear of rejection still loomed over him. "But what about your family? What about the people who look down on me?" Lami smiled, her confidence unwavering. "We'll face them together. We'll stand strong, no matter what they say. Dele, I'm choosing you." As Dele and Lami's relationship became more apparent, the bullying intensified. Students who had once only whispered behind their backs now openly mocked Dele, calling him names and making snide comments about his father's profession. One day, while walking to class, a group of boys blocked Dele's path. "Well, if it isn't the teacher's son," one of them sneered. "What's it like dating someone way out of your league?" Dele tried to ignore them and walk past, but another boy shoved him back. "Don't you get it? You don't belong with someone like Lami. She's too good for you." Anger flared in Dele's chest, but before he could respond, Lami appeared by his side. "Leave him alone," she demanded, her voice fierce. The boys laughed. "Oh, look, here comes the princess to defend her little servant." Lami's eyes narrowed, and she stepped in front of Dele. "You're wrong. Dele isn't beneath me, and he's certainly better than any of you. He's kind, smart, and hard-working, qualities none of you seem to understand." The boys looked taken aback by Lami's outburst, but one of them sneered, "Yeah, right. Just wait until your parents find out. You'll dump him faster than you can say goodbye." Lami took a deep breath, her gaze steady. "You don't know anything about me or Dele. We're not defined by what you think, and we won't let people like you tear us apart." The boys muttered among themselves before walking away, leaving Dele and Lami standing together. Dele turned to her, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, Lami," he said softly. She smiled and squeezed his hand. "We're in this together, remember?" After the confrontation with the bullies, Dele began to realize just how much Lami was willing to fight for their relationship. It was a turning point for him, a moment where he started to believe in himself and their connection. One afternoon, they sat under their favorite tree, the one that had become a symbol of their bond. Dele glanced at Lami, who was busy reading a book. He felt a surge of affection and admiration for her strength. "You really don't care about what people say, do you?" Dele asked, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Lami looked up, her eyes filled with warmth. "No, I don't. Not when it comes to us. I know what I want, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me otherwise." Dele smiled, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. I'm glad you're here, he said quietly. I don't think I could do this without you. Lami reached for his hand, her touch gentle but reassuring. You don't have to do it alone, Dele. We'll face everything together. Dele nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude and love. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of peace. Maybe they could make this work, despite the odds. Chapter 13, Mr. Alaba's Disapproval. Despite their growing bond, the tension between Dele and Lami's family continued to escalate. One evening, Lami's father, Mr. Alaba, called her into his study. She knew what was coming. It was only a matter of time before her parents tried to intervene in her relationship with Dele. Sit down, Lami, her father said, his tone stern but calm. Lami sat across from him, her heart pounding. What's this about, Dad? She asked, trying to sound casual. Mr. Alaba folded his hands on the desk, his expression serious. I've been hearing things about your relationship with Dele, the teacher's son. Lami's stomach tightened, but she remained composed. And, she asked, her voice steady. Mr. Alaba sighed, leaning back in his chair. Lami, you know we only want what's best for you. Dele may be a good student, but he doesn't come from the kind of background we've always envisioned for you. You deserve someone who can provide for you, someone who shares our values and lifestyle. Lami clenched her fists under the table, her frustration rising. Dad, I don't care about his background. Dele is kind, intelligent, and he treats me with respect. That's what matters to me. Her father's expression softened slightly, but his voice remained firm. Lami, love isn't enough. Life is complicated, and you'll face challenges that Dele may not be able to handle. Think about your future. Lami stood up, her resolve stronger than ever. I have thought about my future, Dad, and I want Dele in it. Without waiting for a response, she left the study, leaving her father to ponder her words. As the pressure from both sides mounted, Dele and Lami decided to meet in secret more often. Their favorite tree became their sanctuary, a place where they could escape the judgment of others and simply be themselves. One evening, after everyone had left the school grounds, they met under the tree, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the scene. I feel like we're living in two different worlds, Dele admitted, his voice filled with uncertainty. Your family, the other students, it's like they're all waiting for us to fail. Lami shook her head, her expression determined. We won't fail, Dele. As long as we stay true to ourselves, we can get through this. Dele sighed, his insecurities still gnawing at him. But what if it's not enough? What if I'm not enough? Lami reached out, cupping his face in her hands. You are enough, Dele. You've always been enough. It's time you start believing that too. Dele's heart swelled at her words, and for the first time in a long time, he began to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could make it through the storm together. At home, Dele's father, Mr. Olatunji, had noticed the growing tension in his son. One evening, he decided to address it over dinner. Dele, I've noticed you've been quieter lately. Is everything all right? Mr. Olatunji's voice was gentle but firm, a father's concern shining through. Dele hesitated, pushing his food around on the plate. He knew his father was bound to find out about his relationship with Lami sooner or later, but he wasn't sure how he'd react. Dad, I've been seeing someone, Dele finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Olatunji raised an eyebrow. Seeing someone? And who might that be? Dele took a deep breath. Lami Alaba. The name hung in the air between them, and Dele could see the flicker of recognition in his father's eyes. Mr. Olatunji frowned. The daughter of Mr. Alaba? Dele, that family is nothing like ours. Her father is one of the wealthiest men in the city. You're from different worlds. Dele's heart sank. He had hoped his father would understand, but instead, it seemed like the barriers between them were growing stronger. I know, Dad, but Lami's different. She doesn't care about any of that. She sees me for who I am. Mr. Olatunji sighed, his expression softening slightly. It's not about whether she cares, Dele. It's about whether you can survive the pressure that comes with being with someone like her. People will judge you, and it won't be easy. I'm ready for that, Dele replied, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. Lami's worth it. Mr. Olatunji gave him a long look, then nodded slowly. If you believe that, then I'll support you. But just be careful, son. Love isn't always enough in this world. As their relationship grew more visible, Lami's friends began to notice the change in her. At first, they were amused by her spending time with Dele, but soon enough, they started to question her decisions. One afternoon, as Lami walked through the school corridors, she was cornered by her two closest friends, Yinka and Ifeoma. "Lami, we need to talk," Yinka said, her arms crossed. Ifeoma nodded in agreement, her face serious. "What's going on with you and Dele?" Lami sighed, already sensing where the conversation was headed. "Dele and I are just friends," she began, but Yinka cut her off. "Friends? Really? Everyone knows you've been spending a lot of time together, and it's not just friend time. You're falling for him, aren't you?" Lami hesitated but then stood her ground. "Yes, I am. I care about him." Ifeoma gasped in disbelief. "Lami, are you serious? He's just not on our level. His dad's a teacher here, for goodness sake. What will people think?" Lami's temper flared. "I don't care what people think, Ifeoma. Dele's a good person, and that's what matters to me. Not his background, not his father's job. He's kind, smart, and he respects me." Yinka shook her head, clearly exasperated. "You're throwing away everything for him, Lami. Do you really want to be seen with someone who doesn't belong in our world?" Lami's voice grew firm. "Maybe it's time I stopped worrying about our world and started thinking about what makes me happy. And Dele makes me happy." Yinka and Ifeoma exchanged a look but said nothing more. Lami knew she had drawn a line in the sand, and whether or not her friends would stand by her, she had made her choice. As the pressure mounted from all sides, Dele began to question everything. One evening, as he sat alone in his small bedroom, the weight of the world seemed to rest on his shoulders. The whispers at school, the judgment from Lami's friends, and even the quiet disapproval from his own father gnawed at his confidence. Could he really be the partner Lami deserved? The more he thought about it, the more doubts crept into his mind. His heart ached at the thought of losing Lami, but deep down, a voice whispered that maybe it would be better for her if they weren't together. She deserves someone who can give her the life she's used to, Dele muttered to himself. "I'm just holding her back." Unable to shake the feeling of inadequacy, Dele made a decision that night, a decision he hoped would protect Lami from further hurt. He would push her away, for her own good. He would end things before it was too late. The next morning, when Lami approached him at school with her usual bright smile, Dele's heart twisted in his chest. "Dele, I've been thinking about something we could do this weekend," she started, but Dele cut her off, his voice cold. "Lami, I think we need to stop seeing each other." Lami blinked, stunned. "What? Why?" Dele forced himself to look away, afraid that meeting her eyes would make him change his mind. "This isn't going to work. We're from different worlds, and I don't fit into yours. I don't want you to keep suffering because of me." Lami's eyes filled with hurt. "Dele, don't say that. I don't care about what anyone else thinks. I care about you." But Dele steeled himself, refusing to let his emotions get the best of him. "It's over, Lami. This is for the best." He walked away, leaving Lami standing alone, her heart shattered into pieces. After Dele broke things off, Lami was heartbroken, but she wasn't ready to give up. She knew that Dele's decision was based on fear, not because he didn't care for her. She spent days replaying the moment in her head, trying to figure out how to make him see that they could overcome this. One evening, as she sat on her bed, staring at her phone, she made a decision of her own. She wouldn't let Dele push her away out of insecurity. He was worth fighting for, and she was ready to do whatever it took to prove that they could make it work. The next day, Lami waited for Dele by the tree where they used to meet. When he finally showed up, his expression was guarded, But Lami didn't back down. "Dele, I know you think you're doing this for my sake, but you're wrong," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I don't care about what people say. I don't care about our backgrounds. I care about us." Dele opened his mouth to protest, but Lami cut him off. "I'm not giving up on you, Dele. You mean too much to me. You make me happy, and I won't let anyone, especially you, take that away from me." Her words struck a chord deep within him. And for the first time in days, Dele allowed himself to hope that maybe, just maybe, they could survive this. Let's explore new dynamics and introduce fresh challenges that will further develop Dele and Lami's relationship. We'll look into family secrets, personal growth, and new characters who will test their bond. One afternoon, as Lami was walking home from school, she overheard her parents arguing in the study. The voices were low but intense, filled with a tension she hadn't noticed before. She hesitated outside the door, curiosity getting the better of her. "We've kept this hidden long enough, Ton. Lami deserves to know the truth." Her mother's voice rang out. Lami leaned in closer, her heart pounding. What truth? What were they hiding? Her father's deep voice responded sharply. She doesn't need to know anything. Telling her would only complicate things. Our status, our life, everything we built depends on it staying buried. Lami gasped softly, feeling her heart race. What secret could they possibly be hiding? Her father was a successful businessman, and they had always been a respected family. But this conversation hinted at something darker, something that threatened to unravel everything she thought she knew. Unable to hold back any longer, Lami pushed the door open. "What are you two talking about?" she demanded, her voice trembling. Her parents' faces turned white, and her mother quickly stood up, trying to deflect the situation. "Lami, this is not a conversation for you." Lami crossed her arms, determination flashing in her eyes. "I have a right to know what's going on. If you don't tell me, I'll find out myself." Her father sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Lami, this is about something that happened before you were born. It's complicated, but for now, you need to trust us. We're doing what's best for you." Lami left the room feeling more unsettled than ever. What were they hiding, and how would it affect her relationship with Dele? While Lami was grappling with her family's secrets, Dele received an unexpected visit from his estranged mother, Iridi. She had left their family years ago when Dele was just a child, and her sudden return filled him with confusion and anger. "Why are you here?" Dele asked coldly, his arms crossed as she stood on their doorstep. Iridi smiled weakly, her eyes betraying a weariness that Dele hadn't expected. "I came because I need to talk to you, Dele. I heard about Lami, and I have to warn you." Dele frowned, surprised that his mother even knew about his relationship. "Warn me? About what?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Iridi stepped closer, her voice lowering. "The Alabas, they aren't who they seem. Lami's father is involved in things that could destroy both of you if you're not careful. There are powerful people connected to their family, and you don't want to get caught in that web." Dele stared at his mother, unsure whether to believe her. After all, she had left him without a word all those years ago. Why would she come back now? Just to warn him. "Why should I believe you?" he asked, his voice hard. Iridi's eyes softened. "Because I regret leaving you, Dele. I'm trying to make things right, and I don't want to see you hurt because of something you don't understand." Dele remained silent, the weight of his mother's words pressing down on him. Could Lami's family really be hiding something dangerous? And if so, how would it affect their relationship? As Dele and Lami navigated their personal struggles, a new figure emerged at school. Deo, a wealthy and charismatic student from another prestigious school who had transferred in mid-year. From the moment Deo laid eyes on Lami, he made it clear that he was interested in her, and his advances were anything but subtle. One day, as Lami and Dele walked to class, Deo casually intercepted them, flashing a confident smile. "Hey, Lami, I was wondering if you'd like to come to my party this weekend. It's going to be quite the event, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it." Dele clenched his fists, feeling a surge of jealousy rise up in him. He knew Dale was everything society deemed perfect for someone like Lami, wealthy, popular, and charming. But Lami, sensing Dele's discomfort, smiled politely at Dale and shook her head. "Thanks, but I already have plans." Dale glanced at Dele, smirking as though he found the situation amusing. "Ah, with Dele, I assume?" His tone was playful, but the underlying jab was obvious. "You know, Lami, you could do better. Someone who can offer you more than just plans." Dele's patience snapped. "She doesn't need your offers, Dale. Lami's with me, and that's all that matters." Dale raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying the tension he had created. "I wasn't trying to offend Dele. I'm just saying Lami deserves the best." He winked at Lami before strolling off, leaving Dele fuming. As the rivalry between Dale and Dele escalated, Lami found herself caught in the middle, torn between loyalty to Dele and the pressure to conform to the expectations of her social circle. As the days passed, Lami became increasingly frustrated with the attention Dale was giving her and the strain it put on her relationship with Dele. She knew Dale was trying to get under Dele's skin, but his persistence was beginning to wear her down. One evening, Lami and Dele sat by the school fountain after classes had ended, the sun casting a golden glow over the campus. Dele was quiet, his mood darkened by Dale's constant interference. "Lami, maybe Dale's right," Dele finally said, breaking the silence. "You deserve someone who can give you more. Maybe I'm just holding you back." Lami stared at him, her heart sinking. "Dele, don't say that. You're not holding me back. Dale's just playing games to get into your head." Dele looked away, his expression pained. "I'm not like him, Lami. I can't offer you the lifestyle he can, and I know people are starting to talk. Maybe it'd be easier if—" "No," Lami interrupted, her voice firm. "I don't care about Dale or what he can offer me. I care about you, and I'm not going to let anyone, especially someone like him, ruin what we have." Dele's eyes softened, the tension in his shoulders easing as Lami took his hand. "We've made it this far, Dele. I'm not going to let some rich kid with a fancy car and a big ego tear us apart." For the first time in days, Dele smiled, his grip on her hand tightening. "I don't deserve you, Lami. You deserve more than you think," Lami whispered, leaning in to kiss him softly on the cheek. "And together, we'll figure out how to deal with Dale." Let's take the story further with deeper and more unexpected twists. We can introduce hidden motives from new and old characters, unveil shocking revelations, and create moments where Dele and Lami's relationship is tested to its core. One afternoon, Dele found an envelope tucked into his school locker. It was addressed to him in neat, unfamiliar handwriting. Curiosity piqued. He opened it and pulled out a folded letter. The message inside was brief but chilling. Asterisk Dele, be careful who you trust. Some people aren't what they seem. Asterisk. There was no signature, no clue as to who had written it. Dele's heart pounded in his chest as he reread the words. Was this a warning about Dale? Or someone else? And why had the letter appeared now? Dele pocketed the letter, his mind racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something bigger than the rivalry with Dale or the whispers about his relationship with Lami. He needed to be careful. Meanwhile, Lami's world was spinning after overhearing her parents' argument. The secret her mother hinted at wouldn't leave her mind, and she finally confronted her mother one evening. "Mom, I need you to tell me the truth. What secret are you and Dad hiding?" Lami demanded, her voice trembling. Her mother's face softened with guilt. She took a deep breath before sitting Lami down. "It's something we hoped you'd never have to know, but I can't keep it from you anymore." Lami's pulse quickened. "Tell me, please." "Your father, he's involved in illegal activities, Lami. Some of his business deals aren't clean. We've built this life on money that came from dangerous places." Lami froze, the weight of her mother's words crushing her. Her father, the man she looked up to, wasn't as honest as he appeared. "Does Dad know you're telling me this?" Her mother shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. He doesn't want you to know. He thinks it's better if you live in ignorance. But I can't watch you get closer to Dele, knowing what might happen if the truth comes out." Lami's heart raced. Could her father's criminal dealings put her and Dele in danger? She didn't know what to believe anymore. A few days later, Dele was approached by an unexpected figure. Deo's father, Mr. A. Kinwale, who was a powerful businessman in the city. He met Dele outside school, stepping out of a sleek black car. "Dele, isn't it?" Mr. A. Kinwale said, extending his hand with a broad smile. "I've heard about you. I've also heard about your situation with Lami." Dele hesitated, shaking his hand cautiously. "What do you want?" Mr. A. Kinwale's smile never faltered. "I have an offer for you. I know my son has been a bit competitive, but I think we can solve this whole mess if you agree to something." "What kind of offer?" Dele asked, his suspicion growing. "If you walk away from Lami, I'll make sure you and your father are taken care of. No more struggles, no more ridicule. I can give you a better life, one you deserve." Dele felt his stomach turn. The idea of abandoning Lami for money made him sick. But the temptation of a better life for his father was real. "You want me to just leave her?" Mr. A. Kinwale nodded. "It's for the best. Lami's future is with someone like my son, not someone with your circumstances." Dele's jaw clenched. "No, I won't sell her out." Mr. A. Kinwale's smile faded, replaced with a cold stare. "Think carefully, Dele. You don't know who you're dealing with." Back home, Lami was still reeling from her mother's confession. She knew she couldn't confront her father without risking everything, but she needed answers. She began quietly investigating his business dealings, looking through old files and overhearing conversations when he wasn't aware. One evening, while her father was out, she found an old briefcase hidden in his study. Inside, she discovered documents that linked her father to illegal arms trading and corrupt politicians. She covered her mouth, barely able to comprehend the depth of his involvement. Trembling, Lami realized that her family's wealth had come from lies, deceit, and crime. Worse, if this information ever got out, it would destroy everything, including her relationship with Dele. Lami was caught in a moral battle. Should she confront her father and risk their world collapsing, or should she stay quiet and protect the life she knew, even if it was built on darkness? While Dele grappled with Mr. A. Kinwale's threat and Lami dealt with the weight of her father's secrets, a new player entered the scene. One afternoon, as Dele walked home, a stranger stopped him on the street. She was a woman in her mid-40s with a commanding presence, dressed in a sharp suit. "Dele, I've been watching you," she said, her eyes sharp but kind. "I know about Mr. A. Kinwale's offer, and I know what's really going on with the Alaba family." Dele narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" The woman smiled slightly. "Let's just say I'm someone who's interested in justice. My name is Ms. Ao, and I have information that could help you, if you're willing to listen." Dele was cautious, but something about Ms. Ao's confidence made him pause. "What do you know?" "I know that the Kinwales and the Alabas are part of a much larger conspiracy," she said calmly. "But I also know you and Lami are caught in the middle of it. If you want to protect her and yourself, you'll need my help." Dele felt a chill run down his spine. Could Ms. Ao really be trusted? Or was she just another piece of a puzzle that kept getting darker and more dangerous? As the pressure mounted, Dele decided he needed to talk to his father about everything. He found his father in their small, cluttered living room, grading papers after school. "Dad, I need to talk to you," Dele said, sitting down across from him. Mr. Babalola looked up, concern in his eyes. "What is it, Dele?" Dele hesitated, unsure of how to begin. "Do you know anything about the Alaba family or Mr. A. Kinwale?" Mr. Babalola's face tightened, and he put down his pen. "What have you heard?" Dele explained everything. The offer from Mr. A. Kinwale, the mysterious letter, and Ms. Ao's strange warnings. His father listened in silence, his expression growing more troubled with each word. "Dele, you need to stay away from these people," his father said finally, his voice low. "The Alabas and the Kinwales are dangerous. Their wealth, it comes from places you don't want to be involved in. Dele's heart sank. His father knew more than he had let on. But Dad, what about Lami? I can't just walk away from her. Mr. Babalola sighed deeply, his face lined with worry. If you care about her, then you both need to be careful. There are things at play here that could ruin lives. This is bigger than just your relationship, Dele. You're stepping into dangerous territory. Let's delve into the next turning point, focusing on critical moments that force Dele and Lami to confront their fears and make pivotal decisions. This section will explore the fallout from their discoveries, the impact on their relationship, and the final test of their commitment to each other. News of a scandal involving the Alabas began to leak into the media. Rumors spread that Lami's father was under investigation for corruption and illegal activities. As Dele walked into school, whispers and gossip surrounded him, and students exchanged glances filled with curiosity and judgment. Lami approached Dele in the school courtyard, her face pale and drawn. "Dele, have you heard? They're saying my father is going to be arrested. This is all over the news." Dele looked at her, concern and confusion evident in his eyes. "I saw the headlines. It's everywhere. What's going on?" Lami shook her head, tears welling up. "I don't know everything, but I know it's bad. My mother's been trying to keep it quiet, but it's too late now. The investigation is real." Dele took her hands, trying to offer comfort. "We'll get through this, Lami. We just need to stay strong." But as the day wore on, Dele couldn't shake the feeling that their relationship was being scrutinized more than ever. The pressure of being associated with the scandal began to weigh heavily on both of them. The once close friends and allies now found themselves facing a barrage of judgment from their peers. Dele returned home that evening to find Ms. Ao waiting for him in their living room. She looked serious, and her demeanor made Dele uneasy. "I have more information," Ms. Ao said, her voice low. "The Alabas aren't just involved in simple corruption. They're part of a larger network that deals in illicit trades. If Lami's father is arrested, it won't just be a scandal. It'll put both of you in danger." Dele's heart pounded. "What should we do? Lami's already in the middle of this, and I don't know how to protect her." Ms. Ao's eyes were piercing. "You have to make a choice. You can either distance yourself from Lami to protect yourself, or you can fight to clear her family's name. But be aware, fighting could put both of you at risk." Dele felt torn. The idea of leaving Lami was unbearable, but the thought of exposing her to even more danger was equally frightening. "I don't want to leave her, but I also don't want to see her get hurt because of me." Ms. Ao nodded. "Think carefully, Dele. Time is running out." As the media frenzy escalated, Lami decided she had to confront her father directly. She found him at home, pacing nervously. "Dad, what's really going on? I need to know the truth." Her father's face was grim. "Lami, there's a lot you don't understand. I've been involved in some dangerous dealings, and now it's all coming to light. The investigation is just the beginning." Lami felt a wave of betrayal and anger. "Why didn't you tell me? You put everyone in jeopardy. And what about Dele? The scandal is affecting him too." Her father's eyes were filled with regret. "I wanted to protect you from all this, but now that it's out in the open, you need to be careful. There are people who won't hesitate to use this against you." Lami felt a heavy burden settle on her shoulders. She knew she had to make a decision, to protect her father's reputation or to stand by Dele despite the danger. Dele and Lami met secretly in the park, their usual spot now feeling like a battlefield. "I can't keep living like this," Lami said, her voice trembling. "The scandal is tearing us apart, and my family's problems are becoming our problems." Dele reached out, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I don't know what to do. Ms. Ao says we have to make a choice, but I don't want to choose between you and my own safety." Lami looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. "Maybe we don't have to choose. Maybe we can fight this together, but we need to be prepared for what's coming. I can't let my family's mistakes ruin everything we have." Dele nodded. determination setting in his eyes. "Then we'll fight this together. We'll find a way to clear your family's name and deal with the dangers head-on." As they held each other, both felt a renewed sense of resolve. They would face the scandal, the danger, and the judgment together, no matter what it took. "I've been following the case closely," Obi said over the phone. "I know there's more to the story than what's been reported. If you and Lami want to clear her family's name, I might be able to help." Dele was skeptical but intrigued. "How can you help?" Obi explained that he had uncovered evidence of a rival business network that had been framing the Alabas to take over their assets. He offered to work with Dele and Lami to expose the truth and clear their names. Dele was cautious but realized this might be their best chance. "We'll need to be careful. If what you're saying is true, there are dangerous people involved." Obi agreed. "I can provide the evidence, but you and Lami will have to gather more details from within. It won't be easy, but it's the best chance you've got." With Obi's help, Dele and Lami embarked on a covert mission to gather evidence against the rival network. They spent nights sifting through documents, interviewing contacts, and piecing together a complex web of deceit. One night, as they worked in Lami's room, her phone rang. It was Ms. Ao. "I've heard about the new lead," Ms. Ao said. "But be careful. The rival network is dangerous, and they won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who gets in their way." Dele and Lami exchanged worried glances. "We need to be extra cautious," Dele said. "We're getting close to the truth, but the risk is higher than ever." As they continued their investigation, their bond grew stronger, united by their shared mission and the challenges they faced together. The evidence was almost complete, and Dele and Lami prepared to confront the rival network's leaders. They organized a meeting with Obi, planning to present their findings and expose the corruption. On the day of the confrontation, they arrived at a secluded warehouse where the meeting was set to take place. The atmosphere was tense, and the rival network's representatives waited for them. Dele took a deep breath as they walked in. "We have the evidence that will expose your crimes. You can't get away with framing the Alabas any longer." The rival leader, a stern-faced man named Mr. Bassi, sneered. "You think you can stop us? We control the media, the politicians, everything. You're nothing but a nuisance." Lami stepped forward, her voice steady. "The truth is more powerful than your threats. We have proof that will bring this entire scheme to light." The confrontation escalated into a heated exchange, with Mr. Bassi and his associates becoming increasingly agitated. But as Dele and Lami presented their evidence, it became clear that their case was strong. As the investigation gained momentum, the media began covering the rival network's illegal activities. The Alabas name was cleared, and the scandal shifted the focus on the true perpetrators. Lami and Dele watched the news together, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We did it," Lami said softly, leaning against Dele. Dele nodded, wrapping his arm around her. "Yes, we did, but it wasn't easy. We faced so many obstacles, and it felt like the whole world was against us." Lami looked up at him, a smile forming on her lips. "But we face it together, and that's what matters. Our love survived all of this, and we've proven that it's stronger than any challenge." Dele kissed her forehead gently. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lami. We're stronger now, and we've learned so much about ourselves and each other." As the dust settled and their lives began to return to normal, Dele and Lami knew that their journey had changed them forever. They had faced the darkest of times and emerged stronger, their love unshaken by the trials they had endured. Just as things were calming down, Dele received a shocking phone call from Ms. Ao. "Dele, we have a problem," she said urgently. "I've discovered that someone from your side might be involved in leaking information to the rival network." Dele's heart sank. "What? That can't be possible. Who could it be?" Ms. Ao hesitated. "It looks like there's someone close to you, maybe even someone from your own family, who might be compromised. You need to investigate this quickly." Dele felt a mix of dread and confusion. He began to question everyone around him, trying to find any inconsistencies. The suspicion grew heavier when he noticed that certain details from their investigation were being leaked, putting their entire operation at risk. Dele's investigation led him to his own home, where he found startling evidence. A series of emails and texts revealed that his older brother, Dele, had been secretly communicating with the rival network, hoping to benefit financially from the scandal. Confronting Dele was heart-wrenching. "Why, Dele? Why would you betray me like this?" Dele demanded, his voice breaking. Dele looked guilty but defiant. "I was desperate. The family's financial situation was dire, and I thought I could find a way out. I never meant to hurt you, but the money was too tempting." Dele felt a mix of betrayal and sadness. "You've jeopardized everything we've worked for. I don't know if I can ever forgive you." As Dele grappled with the betrayal, Lami faced a personal crisis of her own. Her mother fell seriously ill, and the stress of the scandal had taken a toll on her health. Lami was torn between staying with her mother and continuing the fight to clear her family's name. Dele found Lami in tears at the hospital. "I don't know what to do, Dele," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to be here for my mother, but I also need to fight for our future." Dele took her hand gently. "You don't have to choose. We'll find a way to manage both. Your family needs you now, and I'll handle the rest." Lami looked at him gratefully, feeling a renewed sense of hope despite the chaos surrounding them. Obi, the journalist, reached out to Dele with surprising news. "I need to tell you something important," Obi said. "I've uncovered that the rival network was actually using me to manipulate the media and create a false narrative. I'm deeply sorry for not realizing it sooner." Dele was stunned. "So, you were being used too? What do we do now?" Obi looked distressed. "I want to make it right. I have information that could not only clear Lami's family, but also expose the true mastermind behind the corruption. But we need to act fast." Dele and Lami had to make a decision quickly. They worked with Obi to prepare a final piece of evidence that would unravel the entire conspiracy. As they prepared to go public with the new evidence, a mysterious fire broke out at Lami's family home. The fire caused significant damage, and Lami's family lost important documents and records that could have proven their innocence. Lami was devastated. How could this happen now? Everything we've worked for is going up in smoke. Dele tried to console her. "We can't let this stop us. We'll find another way. We've come too far to give up now." The fire added an unexpected layer of urgency, and Dele and Lami needed to re-strategize to ensure their evidence would still be credible. In the midst of the chaos, Dele discovered a hidden message in one of the damaged documents from the fire. It led him to a meeting with a former associate of the rival network, who revealed that the real mastermind was someone within Lami's own circle. The revelation shook Lami to her core. "You mean someone close to me has been manipulating everything? But who?" The former associate revealed that it was one of Lami's trusted advisors, someone who had been pretending to be supportive while secretly working against them. Lami confronted the advisor, who admitted to working with the rival network for personal gain. "I wanted to ensure my position and wealth, no matter the cost," the advisor confessed. "I thought I could control the outcome." The confrontation left Lami feeling even more isolated. "I trusted you. You were supposed to be on my side." Dele reassured her. "We'll get through this. We've faced so much already. This is just another challenge we'll overcome together." With the final piece of evidence and the exposure of the true mastermind, Dele and Lami prepared for a press conference to reveal everything. However, just before the event, Lami received an anonymous threat warning her to cancel the conference or face dire consequences. Dele and Lami decided to proceed, knowing that backing down would only let the corruption continue. "We have to stand up for what's right," Lami said firmly. The press conference was intense, with the media and public reacting strongly to the revelations. Dele and Lami faced tough questions, but remained resolute. The press conference was a success in revealing the corruption, but it also stirred up a significant backlash. Lami's family faced public scrutiny, and the media spotlight turned harshly on them. Dele and Lami received mixed reactions from their peers and the public. Some praised their bravery, while others criticized their involvement in the scandal. Despite the backlash, Dele and Lami remained united. "We did what we had to do," Dele said. "We fought for the truth, and that's what matters." Amidst the chaos, Dele's family faced their own challenges. Dele, feeling remorseful for his actions, sought forgiveness. He made efforts to repair the damage and support Dele and Lami. "I've made mistakes, and I'm sorry for the pain I've caused," Dele said sincerely. "I want to make things right." Dele, still hurt, saw the sincerity in his brother's apology. "We'll need time, but we can try to rebuild. It's going to be a long process." As time passed, both Dele and Lami began to heal from the emotional and physical toll of the scandal. Lami's mother recovered from her illness, and the family started to rebuild their lives. Dele and Lami found solace in their renewed bond and the support of their close friends and family. They worked on restoring their sense of normalcy and moving forward with their lives. Dele and Lami decided to use their experience to help others who face similar struggles. They started a foundation to support students from underprivileged backgrounds and promote transparency and accountability. Their efforts gained recognition, and they began to make a positive impact on their community. "We've turned our trials into something meaningful," Lami said, her eyes filled with hope. Dele nodded. "We've grown so much through all of this. It's time to use our experiences to make a difference." As Dele and Lami continued their work with the foundation, their relationship grew stronger. They supported each other through challenges and celebrated their successes together. One evening, under the stars, Dele proposed to Lami. "We've faced so much together, and I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Lami, tears of joy in her eyes, said, "Yes, Dele. I've loved you through everything, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Dele and Lami's wedding was a beautiful celebration of their love and resilience. Surrounded by friends and family, they exchanged vows and celebrated their journey together. As they looked back on their story, they realized that their love had triumphed over adversity and that their commitment to each other had grown stronger through every challenge. Dele and Lami walked hand in hand into their future, ready to face whatever came next with the same courage and love that had brought them through their trials. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this heartfelt story, The Teacher's Son, Love Against All Odds. Your support means the world to us. If this story touched you or made you think differently about love and overcoming challenges, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. At African Tales of Wonder, we're all about bringing you inspiring and captivating stories from the heart of Africa. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story. Thank you again for being part of our journey. We can't wait to share more tales with you. Stay tuned for more adventures.